to the RunnerX podcast, where we talk about all things running. As many runners know, it's 90% mental. So join Coach Valerie and Coach Caroline as we go through the mental side of running. Hey, welcome back to the RunnerX podcast. I'm going to have to do some editing. Valerie and I have been having such great conversations. And I hope you guys enjoyed this because we started this podcast because we've been meeting almost once a week for almost 3 years. And we have these fantastic conversations that I just got into. I wanted to record, and then I eventually said more people should hear it. So this week's conversation, I had been looking through old, if you follow us on Instagram for the last, year, I've been going back through, I think you have like 6,500 posts that you've done since 2011, because she pretty much posts once to twice a day. So I go back and I look at her old videos and I look at her old side-by-sides and stuff like that. And it's amazing to me, first off, that she has been saying the exact same thing, no variation, no change in pose, fall, pull, or how she teaches it since 2011, 2012. Guys, it's amazing. So the ones you're going to see this month when this podcast comes out are from 2016. And there were quite a few videos that we're going to be posting on unweighting. Explain to me what you mean by unweighting and how I can do more of it when I run.
Okay, that's a great question. So we are all so conditioned, guys, to work with our muscles. And so everything we do, we try to use muscular efforts to do. Mm-hmm. And I didn't ever think about, so again, these conversations are so good because when I first started having these conversations, there wasn't anyone around me having the same conversation. So I literally would have this conversation like with Dr. Romanoff basically, and coaches that were like involved with pose.
Right.
And then I'd go back into my real world where people they wanted me, because here's how Valerie has taught for her whole life. So just when Caroline says that, when you have a way to teach someone movement and it works, then as a coach or as a teacher, you keep trying to make that better.
Right.
But if the concept is the same, you're just getting better at overall teaching how to do the movement. So for a lot of years before I started really learning about movement, I also was a muscular teacher. So everything I taught was like let's just use very simple. I taught a lot of aerobics or step aerobics. I'm bringing it back, by the way.
Yeah.
But we would do things like say, step, lift, down, down. Step, lift, down, down. Squeeze your glutes. Pull your stomach in. So everything was an action, right? So it was a to-do. So I'd be like, up, step, tap, up. Whatever the movement was, but it was about the action, right? Yeah. So it was all this action based. And if we do, I used to teach 45 minutes of glutes and abs, 45 solid minutes. I mean, you talk about you would walk out there not walking. You know what I mean? And it would all be about, back then it was about the burn, right? Yeah. So we would be like, all right, we're doing 100 crunches. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And all of a sudden it was about pain even.
Yeah.
I want to feel the burn in my
Lactic
abs.
acid, yeah.
Well, I don't know. We just called it the burn, right?
Yeah, it was the burn, but that's,
And,
you
but
felt like you did a great workout if the next day you couldn't
so they'd be
walk.
like, oh yeah, that was a good workout, Valerie. I could really feel it in my abs. I could really feel it in my glutes. So it had to be about feeling it in the muscles. So everything was about that, right? And so here I get into running. So in the beginning, before I had any understanding of running, I was kind of running the same way because the only education I had on running, first of all, I had none. Just like everybody else, you just ran. And then when I went to the running shoe store, the guy said to me, you're supposed to push off your back foot and reach with the front. So I was like, great, thank you, right? He was a runner, I wasn't, so I took it as just gospel. So I was telling my ladies, push off the back and use, at the time when you thought of pushing off the back, it was all about using the back of the leg.
Right.
And then really reach with the front. And what people are still saying is lift with your knees. I mean, pump your arms. It was just so much action.
Yeah, it's so much, and it feels so muscular.
Yeah, and so then you're out there and you're like, man, I'm pumping my arms, I'm pushing off the back.
This is so hard.
I'm reaching with the front. Yeah, I can't. Yes.
I'm not going anywhere.
Right, right. And then everyone's like, yeah, is this hard for you? Yeah, it's really hard for me. We're all like, we're so proud of ourselves because we're running, right?
Yeah.
Well, really, you're not running at all. You're just putting a bunch of work into the ground.
Yeah.
And so...
Let me back that up.
Yeah.
That is so true, guys. Think about that. If I'm pushing and reaching and moving my arms, I'm putting the work into the ground.
Right.
I want to make a T-shirt that says that. Stop putting the work into the ground. Because that's exactly what I'm doing.
Right.
I'm not falling. I'm not using gravity. I'm not feeling light or effortless or any of that.
Right, but it's also not part of the conversation. Like
Right.
When I first started running, it was all about pound the pavement.
Yeah, it's pound the pavement. It's feet hitting the asphalt. Yeah, all of
Hitting
that.
the road.
Hit the road. Yep. Grind.
Push through it.
Yep.
Grind, reach, drive, extend. All of the words
But it's
are
so
aggressive.
it's so aggressive and it's so permanent.
Yeah.
When I think about working the ground, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm planting a tree. I'm not being like water.
Right.
I think it's almost the difference between being a good martial artist and being like a boxer, or not even a boxer, because boxers move better. But I think if you plant as a boxer or in any kind of self-defense, you are going to get tipped over. If you are fluid in your movement
And light on your feet.
you can move other people's momentum away from them. So
that
I
was the
digress.
Whole, right. No, but that was like Muhammad Ali's whole deal.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Right? Fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
Exactly.
The reason he was able to fly like a butterfly is because he understood how to use his body weight.
Yeah.
And when you see runners that are so smooth, good examples, of course, Usain Bolt, good examples, of course, right now, Kipchoge, if you watch, they look so smooth. They look effortless,
Yes.
right? And you see someone that moves well. Dancers are great examples.
Oh, yeah, another one.
My goodness. And so what you realize is they know how to use their body weight. And we don't, because we're not taught to. Again,
Right.
it goes back into, if I don't know how to use my weight, unfortunately, or how to work with gravity correctly even, then unfortunately, then we're all out there pushing and reaching and mimicking what we see, right? Because
Right.
if the person at the running shoe store says to you, push off the back, and you're gonna extend forward, well, when you're doing that in your mind, you think that's the feeling you're supposed to have.
You
see
think
what I
that's
mean?
unweighting, but you're not.
Right. Well, and the term isn't even there.
Yeah.
Right. Because again, if you when you start to think about these things, guys, especially as an adult, if I push into the ground, well, there's just unfortunately, there's laws of nature that we can't work against. The ground pushes back to me.
Yeah.
I mean, if it made sense to push off the ground, then why are we not all just bouncing around all the time,
true.
right? And if you trip and fall, you don't land and bounce up. You land and you stay there, especially as you get older. So I'm just saying this. So the concept is just not there right now in running. So the first time Dr. Romanoff said to me, "You need to unweight your feet," I was like, "Oh, is that a Russian term?" Like, like he directly speaks Russian to English. So I said to him, "I'm not sure what that means." And he said, "Well, you're taking all of your body weight and you're trying to push your weight off of the ground and then reach. It's like you're jumping." He said, "You're basically pushing off your back leg and you're jumping forward, and then you're landing with 3 times your body weight on your body."
Can you guys visualize this? Because that's exactly how I ran.
Well, everyone, but everyone runs like that. It's not like we're snowflakes, right? Again, that's what they're teaching. And then they're like, "Oh my gosh, landing." Now they have research. Pure research that shows the foot landing ahead of the body is 3 times body weight.
Yeah.
So then the thought needs to be. So then everyone's like, "I'm trying not to reach when I run." Well, you can't do that, because what does that even mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So remind yourself that we can only really do what we can do. So meaning when I'm running, the concept of unweighting means that as soon as my body weight is on the ground, I want to get off the ground. I want to actually take my body weight off of the ground. So it is an unweighting, because my weight is there. I want to unweight. And it really is a word. Like you can look it up. But how do we unweigh in running? Because if I want to say jump, right, in jumping, I don't want to jump when I run. But in jumping, what people do is they bend their knees, they press into the ground, and they extend upwards.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you watch basketball players, that's exactly what they do. And then they've trained so much in jumping that they actually know how to take their body weight up and forward.
Yeah.
So that when they land, it's as soft as can be. Because guess what they practice? Jumping.
Yeah.
To be soft on the landing. There's no way they're jumping, reaching to make a basket and thinking, how am I going to land?
Yeah.
You understand? They're thinking of how high can I get? And to get up off the ground, they had to learn how to unweigh. They're basically learning how to take their body weight up and up. We want to learn how to take our body weight forward, right?
Yeah.
And so the concept needs to be understood that as soon as I sense body weight, I unweigh my foot. Well, the only way to learn that, guys, is through drills, right? And then first I have to understand that there's even weighting.
Right. So when you're saying body weight, and that's really my torso, for lack of a better word. That's from my hips to my if I'm trying to visualize it, the bulk of my body weight is in my torso, correct?
Right. So you have what's called body mass.
Right.
So keep that in mind. Like that's your entire being of your body.
Yeah.
Right. Your bones, your tissue, you name it. Everything of your body is your mass. That's just your whole body mass. The way you carry your body weight is you're correct. 68% of your body weight is from the torso to your head. Your head actually weighs quite a bit, guys. And to think about it, we're a reverse triangle, meaning your feet are actually pretty small compared to the rest of your body. And they're having to support all of your, oh, look at that, a little bit of rain. Yeah. And they're having to support all of your mass and your weight. To unweigh, the center of your body, we call it the general center of mass.
Yeah.
Because the center of the whole being of your body is somewhere in between your hip bones.
Yeah.
That is where gravity acts. So that's the center of your body. So
right.
What we're talking about is taking the center of your body forward. That unweighs your feet. I don't think that weighs.
Okay, so we had a bit of a rain break there. They do that in sports, right? Rain breaks. But we were underneath a metal roof, so it stopped raining. But let's get back to, we were talking about the unweighting and this idea that basically our head and our torso weight are 68% of our body weight. And so when we're trying to unweight, I'm trying to verbally explain what you mean by that. And besides saying just fall, but...
Well, here's the thing. So like, I used to use this as an example. If I was standing there, you and I were just talking, and all of a sudden you realized you were standing on a fire ant bed, how quick would you pull your feet up?
Yeah.
Quick.
Yeah.
Would you press your foot into the ground, or would you try to get your foot up and off it?
That's a good point, yeah.
And, you know, what's funny, by the way, is just now, as soon as it started raining, everybody that was outside immediately starts running as fast as they can to their car.
Yeah.
Like, nothing like rain to make runners. And when you watch people, especially the ones that were in the grass, like they were scared of slipping or hitting mud or whatnot. So all of a sudden they're pulling their feet a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
It's unweighting. You do it naturally. You just don't realize that you're doing it. So, by the way, people that are, let's say, really heavy, right? Someone's really heavy. When they walk, if you watch them, generally they shift their body weight side to side.
Okay.
Because it's easier to help one side be a little bit less weighted.
Okay.
Put the weight on the other side, and then they kind of give it back. It's like
right.
a little bit of hot potato.
Yeah.
And a lot of runners do that. Not even being any kind of overweight, but they just naturally, we all, in movement, your body really wants to not be loaded.
Okay.
Not be weighted. Impact is not pleasant on the body.
Right.
Right? So it actually will try to help you unweight. You're just not paying attention or realizing it.
Okay.
So it's the same thing. Again, we can use things like going up and down stairs. How many people need to use a rail? Like if you just watch people in general, I do this sometimes when I travel. Like if I see an escalator or a stair, I take the stairs because I'm Valerie.
Yeah.
And then I'm like doing things like up, 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 and I'm trying to like unweight myself. So to go up a flight of stairs, think about if I take my upper body from my head to my hips forward, like up to the next step, how much less weight there is for my feet to have to pull, rather than me standing perfectly still and trying to like lift all of my weight up
Yeah.
a step,
Yeah.
right?
And that's what happens when people are doing some of these drills and some of
Right,
this
but
work.
notice the next time you go upstairs that you naturally do this. It makes
Right.
total sense to go upstairs, and that's why there's a rail
Right.
to help you get your body up and forward, or why people use sticks when they do trails.
Yeah.
It's all of that. It's the unweighting concept. So start thinking it. So then what happens on the way down? Right? Everyone's like, oh my gosh, downhill hurts my knees. Well, it absolutely will if you take your body weight and apply it even more on a downhill,
Yeah.
right? Think about, how do I go down a flight of stairs? Do I step with all my weight? Do I weight myself, or do I try to hold my shoulders up over my hips and take little pulls down the stairs? You see what I mean? Like, this is unweighting. It's taking my body weight away. It's unweighting. So
Okay.
in running, where's our body weight? On our feet.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm standing on the ground, where's your body weight? It's on your feet. What we want to do is take our body weight, which we know is generally in our center, right, from our hips up, and we want to take our body weight forward. And we're redirecting, basically. So if you take your body weight forward, it unweighs your feet. So in running, if you run correctly, like we teach you, you've literally taken your body weight forward, and when you pull your foot up, it's 2% of your body weight.
Yeah.
Your foot is unweighted.
Okay. So what are some things, if I'm new to Run RX, I've seen some band drills, you've often talked about how fun it would be to have like pool drills and things like that. Is that something, and we've also talked about like unweighting, just getting on your countertop, just unweighting off the countertop. What are some things?
Just standing in place, guys. You can start with a side to side. If you've ever jumped rope.
Oh,
jump
that's a
rope
good one,
is
jumping rope,
unweighting.
yeah.
But if I'm just brand new and I'm starting, by the way, I worked with this guy once remotely. I'm just going to use him for an example. And when I first talked to him, I believe he weighed somewhere close to 400 pounds.
Okay.
And he said to me, I have no chance of running right now, but I want to get there. And what is something you could just tell me as I am right now that I could just do to start the sensation, to start the feeling, right? And I said to him, stand there and start by just shrugging with your shoulders to lift.
Yeah.
Think about lifting your shoulders up and lifting your hips up just enough to feel a little bit less weight.
Okay.
And then hold that for just a second, let it go, and you're going to feel unweighted, weighted. You could even do it seated.
Yeah.
You could even start seated, and you're going to start to understand that you actually, once you learn how to help your upper body start to unweigh, which is just holding yourself with your ears, shoulders, hips in line, he was able to then start to shift his body weight. Rather than trying to take his foot and move it forward, I said, no, take your body and let it fall slightly. Let gravity help you take it slightly forward, and then you just barely pull your foot. And all of a sudden he was like, okay, I can sense that. You see, it's a sensation.
Yeah.
It's a feeling. It's no action. There's no muscular effort.
Right.
And that's where people have the challenge. They're like, well, what do I do with my arms? Well, your arms are for balance. So we answer all of these questions. And I'm using him as an example because he was just like open to movement. And by the way, he's moved on. He's doing all kinds of stuff now. But he knew that if I start my journey with understanding how to move, then as I lose weight, I could move better. It was just so amazing to me that he had that thought. And so I tell people, like, as runners, if I go to if I'm running and something is hurting me, right? Like my hip hurts when I run, my knee hurts when I run. And I said to you, well, you should unweight your knee.
Yeah.
Well, how does that make any sense?
Exactly. That's
It's
what
not, right? It's not a conversation, because if you go to the PT and you're like, my hip hurts, my knee hurts, what do they give you?
No stretches.
Clams,
Yeah.
side
Clams,
stretches.
yeah.
Like they're
I never understood how clams help, but
I'm just saying, but they're immediately going to give you things to try to help the hip, which they should. That's their job.
Right.
But if I keep going out and putting 3 times my body weight on my knee and my hip, it's going to hurt every time I run. So first I have to understand what is unweighting. And then I teach you, like, let's say you're not ready to run yet. We start with walking and unweighting.
Right.
We can do it with walking. You separate your feet just slightly. You shift your body weight back and forth through your hips. And then you feel that as my hips go forward, I pull my foot up, it feels so light.
Yeah.
So then you're like, oh, that's interesting. And that has to be the first concept. And I'm not doing it while running, see, because I don't want to worry about running yet.
Right.
I want you to just feel, oh, that's an interesting feeling, and it feels so much better. So all of a sudden you start walking by using your whole body weight to unweigh yourself.
Well, and I was going to say, and then by using your whole body weight and being conscious of that your body weight is not in your feet and in your knees, right? It's in you suddenly walk with better posture.
Correct.
That was one of those things that I noticed really quick in my running is that, and even in my walking, is I tend to look down a lot.
Right.
When you look up and you put your chest out, right?
Right.
You suddenly change your whole posture, right? So you're going to improve your posture as well, right?
Oh, 1,000%.
And I love that idea of, and I gave this to you guys on a Tough Love Tuesday about 3 weeks ago, of the idea of imagine you're carrying water on your head, right? That imagine you have this thing of water and you can't spill the water. So how do you walk with your body staying, not hopping, not moving, but able to maintain that presence and that kind of that, I guess it almost is a regal presence, but it's really just proper posture.
Correct.
So that also helps with the unweighting too, right?
Oh,
just looking
so
at your
much.
posture.
And by the way, it's funny you say that with regal posture because I just watched this video of Dr. Romanoff doing a running lesson. It was pretty recent. And he walks like that.
Oh.
He has presence. Yeah, because he's unweighted. And he's so conscious of it. And he spent all of his life teaching it and talking about it. So he has a bit of a sachet when he walks. He does, but it's because he's fully unweighted. And by the way, he was actually born with one, I don't know what you call it, but one of his feet is totally turned out, like a club foot.
Like a club foot?
But it looks like it goes the other way. Well, they never corrected it, and he has a high jumper.
Yeah.
You know? He didn't limit himself.
Right.
And that's what I tell people all the time. We limit ourselves. Oh, I can't do that. My knees hurt. Oh, I can't do that. My this and that.
I'm old.
Yeah. But you've never worked with your body weight.
Yeah.
And then I think we have like the relationship with our body weight.
Yeah.
Right. So it really, and I'm not kidding you guys. Once you start to realize that you were putting so much effort, like we just said, that into the ground.
Effort. Yeah.
Instead of making our effort be about getting up and off the ground, your running changes, your mood changes, your everything changes because I'm taking my weight. It's like taking that load off, right? Why do we run? We run to get the stress off. Well, unweighting is the best stress relief for your joints, for your body, for your mind. So if you start thinking that way, you'll manifest that into your movement.
Yeah. One last thing before we close this out, because this was something Valerie and I talked about last week when we were stretching. And we've talked about this before. A lot of people start to run because they are heavy or they've put on weight during the pandemic or whatever the case may be, and they want to lose weight. When you start taking ownership of your body, okay, and you start moving, your body will begin to respond. You will start losing weight. You will start walking better.
Right.
But then you're also going to notice where that weight is impeding your movement. And that's what we were talking about. My knees, because they have extra cushion, and my ankles, because of where the weight is, I can't bend my ankle because there's fat there. I can't touch my toes because I have a paunch on my belly. And it will go, but I now am loving my belly. I'm like, you're going away. Sorry, you're not going to stay there forever. But by not shaming it, by realizing it's just a small limitation, I'm not letting it, I'm saying, okay, that's why you can't touch your toes. It's not because I'm not flexible. It's not because I can't. There is literally, like I have if I were carrying a pillow wrapped around my belly, that's what it's like. If I were pregnant, right, I wouldn't be able to necessarily touch my toes. So and nobody would call that an impediment or that I was overweight or something. So my point is that if you're doing this for weight, take ownership of your body, but start realizing where those impediments are, and just be good to them. Like I'm not beating up my knees. I'm not getting mad at my knees because it's holding extra water. Right. I'm just saying, okay, for right now, you can't bend that way. So you do need to put a towel underneath your legs, or you do need to go slower into your, I don't go as deep into my squats was what brought it up, is because my ankles are hurting because of the weight I have around them.
Right.
And in time, it's not that I'm not going to stop squatting, guys. That's the point. I'm not going to stop doing the movement. I'm not going to stop the unweighting. I'm just going to be patient with myself as I do lose the weight, that it will be able to do it.
And then one last thing, we have a woman that it was not a running injury. She was actually, I want to say she was thrown from a horse, but full break in the femur. First thing the doctor said, you're never going to ride again, and you're certainly never going to run.
Wow.
Right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's like, and she's running.
She didn't listen to him.
Still works with horses. But it's amazing because she said that because the doctor didn't have an understanding of movement.
Right.
When they think of running, they think of knee pain because everyone that goes to the doctor that hurts,
Yeah.
it's the running hurts, so it's usually the knees or the hips. So then it's like a stigma. Running hurts the knees, running hurts the hips, running hurts the whatever. Running is just get this negative impact thing, right? And they're like, no, go ride your bike or go swimming. And you're like, no, I want to run.
Yeah.
Well, that was her attitude. She's like, actually, no, I'd like to run. And she had to go all the way through. I mean, you can imagine, full broken leg. So how did she start? Just like I start everyone else that can't stand on two legs.
Yeah.
How was she weighting? She was very weighted on the leg that was not broken, completely unweighted in the beginning on the broken leg. Mm-hmm. So it was a great conversation because as she was able to play with her body weight, we could test how much she could actually hold on the leg, whatnot. She's now able to run, guys, because she actually had to retrain herself, not just the walking, but running and how to use her own body weight. So it doesn't have to be, I'm heavy, like there's no limitation for us.
Yes.
You can be heavy, you can be thin, you can be injured, you can be whole, and we will help you to unweigh yourself.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us on the RunRx podcast. If you'd like to know more, join us at www.runrx.fit. And if you have additional questions that you'd like answered on the podcast, email us at support@runrx.fit.